Good afternoon. It is so good to be back on the marriage, relationship, and marriage hour. We are here with you this afternoon, and we will be talking about detoxing a toxic relationship. And I am so happy to have our guest co-host with us this evening. Dr. Alvin Hebern is unable to be with us, but we have a well-able young lady in the person of Dr. Kimberly Green, and she will be speaking with us on this powerful topic. And I'm saying powerful because Dr. Kim, this is a topic that many women hide. When times get rough, rather than share what's going on, they tend to hide the toxic relationship and they say everything is well. But we want to help those ladies that are going through and how to be able to detox a toxic relationship. So we invite our listening audience, call someone, let them know what we are talking about this afternoon, and allow them to join us. And if you have any questions, please post your question to us. You can use X, Facebook, YouTube, and all of the other social media. But please send us your questions. Your comments are welcome. So we're going to be diving right into our program. And also, you can call at 437-778-3299. Join in this conversation. It is going to help someone out there. So, Dr. Kimberly, we're happy to have you. And I'm going to be quiet right now and let you share a little about yourself. Tell us, who is Dr. Kimberly Green?
Dr. Kimberly Green. Hello, everyone, and thank you for allowing me or inviting me on this show today. You asked the question, who is Dr. Kimberly Green? First, I want to say that I'm just a humble servant of the Almighty God. And I am a resident of the U.S., a pastor of Resilient Ministries located in Dazzle, South Carolina. I'm also a well-being clinician for the Medical University of South Carolina. I wear many hats, but I'm most grateful just to be a servant of the Almighty God and to be able to join on the show today for such a topic that is dear and near and that I know more than I want to admit.
Awesome. Awesome. So I love it. I love it. There you have our guest for the day, our co-host, our guest co-host, sorry, in the person of Dr. Green. So, Dr. Green, we are going to dive right into this topic. And I want to look at what we call emotional abuse. Many times person go through things and they feel that, oh, that's love. He loves me. But we need to know the difference of going through an emotional abuse and knowing when it's time to check out. Um, if you are being hurt again and again, and there is no end to your abuse, then you know something is wrong. And for those women, usually it's the women. Of course, we do have some men, Dr. Green, as well, but the majority of them are women. We go through this phase in a relationship, and we keep it quiet. We don't want anyone to know that he's beating me at night. I can't tell my family, or he is just verbally belittling you, abusing you, so that you don't even have a voice. That is not what we call a healthy relationship. So, Dr. Kim, this is where we want to start this afternoon, because it always starts. And the thing about it, when we have these type of relationships, he abuses you, and then he comes back and he make up with you. So you really don't have a choice. So he comes, he love you, he buy you gifts, but the beating start all over again. So, Dr. Kim, tell us what you know about a person having to go through emotional abuse. I'm getting tongue tied, and how we can help our listening audience.
Well, for the listening audience, I want to clarify a few things that you mentioned in your opening statement. One of the things you said, abuse, and then you also talked about emotional abuse and trauma that a person may experience. But I want to say to all of those that are listening, because you may say, well, he's not hitting or beating on me, and that's not abuse. But every abuse is not a physical abuse. Some abuse are mental, some abuse are emotional, some abuse are physical, and some abuse are spiritual. It is up to the person to know the difference. And that's a very important part, on knowing that when you're in a relationship, to be able to distinguish from what is a healthy relationship, what is a toxic relationship. Healthy relationships brings peace, and having peace doesn't mean that there's not arguments or disagreement. It doesn't mean that there's not challenges, in the relationship, in the marriage. And I'm speaking from a marital standpoint, or even to those that may be in a relationship and be considering marriage. Because when you talk about healthy relationships and getting emotional involved, it should be to a point to where the relationship is leading somewhere, or either you're in the marriage. So at this point, what I want to just start with and share is, what is a healthy relationship? A healthy relationship is two people striving for a common goal, and that they can actually come to a place where they understand that they're different, but they're willing to have a conversation to settle those differences, to remain in the same direction, on the same page, as they, whatever plans or goal that they set for the relationship. Toxic relationship, on the other hand, is when you're in a relationship that robs your peace, that doesn't allow you to have decent conversations, healthy conversations, that pertains to the relationship itself. It robs your peace, and it robs your ability to have that sound mind and communication, or working together in the relationship for the two. So at this point, you're in a place to where you really want to distinguish what's healthy and what's not healthy. And the reason is because today we're talking about detoxing from a toxic relationship. And sometimes your detoxing starts back from the beginning, that, hey, I got to get rid of this thing. I got to come to a place to where, how am I going to get out of this toxic relationship? And Dr. Marie, from a personal experience, I would share with you is that the first thing you got to do is you have to have a prayer life. Your life has to be in a place to where you have a relationship with the Lord, because that toxic relationship, at that point of trying to detox yourself, has already caused some damage. It
Mm,
has already caused some emotional strain. It has already caused you to second guess or doubt who you are and what you're really supposed to be doing. And so you have some emotional trauma that you have been experiencing, because now you're trying to decide, should I stay or should I go? What is best for me? What's best for me? So now you have emotions that are involved, and you're at a point in your life, to you at a breaking point, that you got to have prayer. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And at this point, you have been weakened in your stance, because you're second guessing yourself. Your emotions are all over the place. And so if you want to be able to deal with those emotions, you got to come to a place in mind. You got to say, you know what? I need to pray. I need to find some instructions. I need to get some directions on where I am to go. And in that point of you praying, you got to seek the Father. What is your will? How can I get out? Where is my way of escape? And it may not be an immediate answer, but you got to be firm to know that in your relationship, in your prayer, that the Lord is going to answer you and show you a way out. There is no way that you're in something that God will not give you a way of escape.
mhm. That is a mouthful. And Dr. Kimberly, thank you. That is a mouthful. And one of the things I heard you mention is emotional abuse, physical abuse, spiritual, and verbal. And if you have these, then your relationship lack peace.
It
And
lacks
I
exactly.
totally agree with that, because where there is no peace, there is turmoil in a relationship. So one of the things we want to keep in the relationship is our peace. And when we do not have peace,
There
it's
is confusion. And
always confusion.
And when there is confusion, it creates an atmosphere for the strife to remain. It
Yeah.
creates an energy of negativity. The response when you ask the question is going to be a negative voice and response that you hear. The thoughts towards the marriage, the relationship, whatever subject topic you're dealing with, all of those are going to give you a negative response because you must understand that a toxicity or a toxic relationship that comes from a toxic person is rooted in sin. It's rooted in something that have happened prior to your getting into the relationship. It is something that has taken root, meaning that it was there before. And in order to help the situation and to help detox yourself from the toxic situation, you must identify what it is that you're dealing with.
Mm.
In my marriage, I've been married for 5 years. I got into a marriage for 5 years, and I started seeing signs of toxic relationship, and I didn't know what it was. And a person of prayer, I began to seek God. And at this point, I'm already at the stage of second guessing. I'm already at the stage of what. And when I say second guess, what did I do? Where did I stand? What did I do to cause you know um this problem that is going on? Where's this tension coming from? Where's this bad attitude? Or where is this silent treatment coming from? And so I didn't do anything. And you're checking your spiritual levels to see what did you do. And when you come to the conclusion that there was nothing you done, I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like you wake up in a bad dream. It's
Yes.
almost like, oh, we went to bed and everything was perfect, but then when we got up, here's the attitude, here's the rejection, here is the, here's the silent treatment, and you're wondering, well, what just happened? It was we went to sleep. Was it a dream? But
Yeah.
then you begin to realize, okay, now I'm at a place I got to find out what this is. And with my personal experience, I prayed and I asked the Lord, what is this that I'm dealing with? It's almost like I'm dealing with two different people. And I want
Mm.
you to get that when I say that. It's almost like you're dealing with two different people. God, what is this? Because now I'm dealing with something I have no experience, no background. This is not love. I knew it wasn't love. This is not healthy. I knew it wasn't healthy, but what is it? And the
Yeah.
Spirit of the Lord spoke to me, and one word, I heard one word. And from that point on, I went into a research stage because I heard the word narcissist. I
Wow.
didn't know what it was, hadn't heard of it, anything, just the Holy Spirit speaking to me and answering me early one morning in prayer. And I again began to research what is a narcissistic person. And all of a sudden, it's like every electronic device that I have started just automatically sending information about this narc, almost like it was just reading my spirit. And I began to see some of the signs, some of the silent treatments. And what I thought was love bombing. What I thought was a person that was getting close to me was just not getting close to me, just getting close for what they have. So it came from a root of selfishness. It came from a root of sin,
Mm.
which was controlling and selfishness, which causes toxic relationships. And so here you realize that there wasn't anything in the relationship to spark this control thing. And then you came to realize that, okay, now I'm at the point to where this is something that has occurred before me, and how am I going to deal with it?
Wow. Wow. That is powerful. So, Dr. Kim, if a person doesn't recognize, because hearing what you're saying, if a person is unable to recognize or put their finger on what is really happening, they will continue to live through that abuse because they feel that maybe have done something wrong, and then they live with that sort of rejecting or themselves, or guessing them, second guessing themselves, because maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I'm the problem, and it's a constant replay.
Well, This is where I go back to the beginning and I said we have to have an active prayer life because
Yes.
and I said pin the point that it's almost like if I was waking up
Mhm.
dealing with two different people, as if
Yes.
not one person was walking in the room. I'm two people walking in the room. One I could identify with, the person that I love. The other one I could not identify with. But it was, you got to understand that toxic relationships, when it's rooted in sin, it's a spirit that you're dealing with.
Mm.
It's a spiritual warfare and battle that you're dealing with. And you must understand that these things happen from the beginning of the Bible with Adam and Eve. You know that Satan does not want a any relationship to be unified. He doesn't want any relationship two or more powerful than one. And
Yes.
so when you come into agreement and become one, you don't want to fight against the forces of you of something that you love. And so you first have to understand that in your prayer, when God shows you things and what that spirit is, you go in prayer for that thing and you recognize, okay, here's a person, but I'm also dealing with a spirit of a person, because we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, and against the powers of the dark and evil
Yes.
forces. And so in order for us to be able to handle that and detox ourselves,
Mhm.
we got to understand that I'm dealing with a spirit, and maybe if I'm not strong enough in this thing, that I need the help of the Lord, and not only the help of God, but I need a team of people. I need I need warriors with me. I need prayer warriors. I need a support system. I
Mhm.
need somebody that can
That's right.
support me.
Yes.
And in my experience, I began to just secretly tell a few people. I didn't tell family. I didn't tell, people that I thought was not able to handle warfare or help me deal with the situation. I had a few that God sent.
Yes.
And in that few of maybe about six people, I began to share what I was dealing with. And I needed prayer. And so that support system surrounded me to help me in prayer and to find a path of direction that, that I could pray for. And I studied the behaviors of a narcissistic person. And so when you're dealing with people with toxic relationship, you have to be careful that you're not pacifying or feeding
Mhm.
that spirit. And
Wow.
what I mean by that is I learned what to do to avoid that spirit.
And that is actually the question I'm looking at right now, Dr. Kim, because you're dealing with this. How did you deal with the person? You had a good support system. You prayed. You learned about the behavior of the individual. Now, how did you deal with the individual himself?
You deal with the spirit.
So you don't deal with him. I mean, yeah, you
You,
got to
you,
deal with him.
he's my husband. I have to deal with him.
Right. So,
I have to deal with him. Life still has to continue to go on, but here is the kicker. Life goes on, but when a narcissistic person has to continue to fuel the ego.
mhm,
They always wanted to, you always fueling the ego and just saying, well, how good of a person they are and how good they're doing this and how good they're doing. They have to have the ego because they're selfish, they're controlling. And
yeah,
so in order for them to gain this, what you call the external approval from people in the world, they always need to be boosted up. They always need to be boosted. And then to what makes them feel powerful is to belittle and make you feel small. And so when the arguments stop, you do not feed the spirit, because then that's the spirit of the argument that needs to continue to be fed so it can continue to live. So you honor the person as a human being, but then you kill the spirit. So it's a twofold thing. You begin to starve the spirit. And so you have to be prepared that
mhm,
when you starve the spirit, it's going to look for food someplace else. That's
okay,
almost like if they're going to look for food, because they
mhm,
have to be fed. So they're
mhm,
going to start what you call outside relationships. They're going to do something that's infidelity. It's not because you're not loving them. It's not because you're not satisfying them at home. It's a point that you're not feeding into the spirit. So then they go and they look for it someplace else. They
Wow.
look for that spirit to be fed. And you have to be strong enough to know that they may even walk out. They may even leave the relationship or the marriage, not because you're not good enough, not because you're not doing anything. And this is where you have to be strong in your stance, that if this is what it takes, then this is what it means. Because if not, you got to understand the word toxic means poisonous.
Yes.
And the stress that penetrates muscle aches and hurting, the stress on the body that as a result of the toxic, if you don't deal with it, it will soon kill you. Stress is a silent killer. And
Mm-hmm.
so it will begin to infirm you. And one of the things that when I'm dealing with, the Lord showed me in the Bible, in the book of Luke, where there was this woman with she was bound with a spirit of infirmities for a period of
18 years.
Luke 13 for 10, it said
18
for
years.
a period of 18 years. And the
Mhm.
Bible said it crippled her. So when Jesus went there to deal with her, he dealt with the spirit. He
Good
called it
point.
the spirit of
Yes.
infirmity.
Mm-hmm.
He dealt with the spirit of the thing, because what was happening, it was toxic. But her place was toxic as well, because it was the leader of the synagogue who began to question Jesus. Why are you healing her on a Sabbath day? And he called them hypocrites, because he said, you go out and you feed your animals, you feed your dogs on a Sabbath day. So why can't I heal my daughter on a Sabbath day? It just wasn't about the Sabbath day, but it was a picture and a background of toxicity that was around this woman that may have caused her not to have been able to get healed in the first place. So when Jesus got there, he dealt with the spirit of infirmities till he put the adversaries ashamed.
Right.
And so it brings me to the point of saying, when you're dealing with toxic relationship, the first thing I pointed out is we have to have prayer. The second thing is a support system. The third thing is you got to get rid of every reminder of what's causing you to be toxic.
Mm. Yeah, give us some more on that, Dr. Kim, because when you talk about get rid, for some people, getting rid means that they have to leave that relationship. For some people, it means I'm over it. This is it, especially in the case of physical abuse.
I would tell anyone that if you're fit in a physical abuse, yes, you need to leave that situation, because that is not the plan of the Lord for you. That is not the plan that your mother and your father had for you. Even though you may have experienced your first act of violence through family, it is still not a plan that is for your life. Your life has a plan, a hope, and a future, and expected end. Your expected end is not a death from a physical abuse or to be entrapped. When you dealing with that and you're walking away from the relationship, you must understand that that support system is going to help you. That's why you have to identify with people who understand what you're dealing with, who has enough compassion that they're willing to walk with you however long it takes to get you out of that toxic relationship. Because remember, your emotions are evolved. And so you may not make the best decisions or the best choices at that time.
That is so true.
I myself, dealing with it, I came away from a lot of being in public places. I came away from a lot of speaking engagements. I came away from a lot of just being with, being out in the eye. I lured myself to come to a place where I wanted to be not hidden from what I was dealing with, but enough to be hidden to the point to whereas I'm not an emotional baggage around all other people. I didn't want I wasn't going to expose my weaknesses to people that may cause me to be more weaker, or may cause, I didn't want to invite other toxic situations into my life. So I limited the places where I was going. I limited what I was doing until I could have control over my emotion. I could heal in a place of safety. I found a safe place, which literally was my home. I went to work, I came back, went to church, I still served God. And in knowing that, and coming to a healing place, and prayer, and having that support system, it will keep you, one, humble.
Yes.
Two, not only will you remain humble, but you will remain in a state of righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is, I'm doing what's right. I'm not out trying to be revengeful. I'm not out trying to date or invite other people into my toxic relationship. I'm not doing any of that. So I'm staying honorable before God, because the Lord has a reward for you. God, when he gives you a way out, he has a greater plan for you. He has an elevation for you. He's not going to leave you in the same state that you found yourself to be in. And when he makes a great way, the way is going to come great, and a way of escape, by you remaining honorable before the Lord, you remaining in righteousness. And so you clearing out all toxicity, you're setting your place for a place of safety, which may mean you got to get rid of the things that remind you of that toxic relationship.
Wow, Dr. Kimberly, this is powerful. And I just want to encourage our audience, if you're listening, please send us your comments, your question to telephone 437-778-3299, WhatsApp. Let us know your thoughts or your comments. We are hearing it from someone who walked that road, and that's always the best teacher. Experience is indeed the best teacher. So we are looking at persons, and I love what I'm hearing. I'm not going to do too much interrupting, because you just saying what needs to be heard. There, some people love to have someone with them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm learning from you, you went to your private castle and you spent time there. You didn't involve too many persons in the relationship.
Mm-mm.
Tell me, what are some of the things? What did you did to keep a sound mind? Because it's not easy. You're
Mm-mm.
going through a whole lot with your spouse, and then you have other things you must deal with. How can you keep a sane mind? What do you do to avoid having to lose it all?
Good question. And I will speak, and I'll be very transparent in in my example. And I'm really not too. I'm usually not too transparent, but I'm going to be very transparent with that, because it is a very good question, and my transparency will help somebody else.
Yes.
One of the things I want to share with you is this: you do have to have a space where you can find some joy. You have to have that. You have to have some kind of outlet. You just can't seclude yourself in. So when I say that, I found myself in a space, but and it was my home is what I call my sanctuary. And I had control who I would let in and let out. And in that, I had, when I say control, it's the fact that if it was anything negative, I knew I could cut it off. That was coming. So, in other words, I made sure that my atmosphere remained positive. Worship music, I kept worshiping. I kept preaching. I kept teaching. I kept doing outreach. I stayed busy before the Lord. I had to stay focused, because now I'm in a state of restructuring. And by this time, because of me starving the narcissistic spirit, it did find and took up place someplace else. And also the word of God teaches us that those spirits would take up, residence someplace else. And so now I'm dealing with all of from a toxic relationship, you will be left with all responsibilities. A toxic person that strives and lives off toxic relationship will dump every bit of responsibility on you and walk away. So at this point, I had to stay focused in order for me to restructure my life. So in detoxing, the part I did is I had to find a space and an avenue. So I started doing just monthly meditation and massages at a facility that I signed up for. And it was one of my people that was one of my support people that understood what I was going through that started that. She gifted me with a 1 hour massage, and it brought so much therapy to me, and it helped with the stress on my body. It helped me mentally. And so I started just doing those type of things to help me. And I just remained. And when I felt like I wanted to release or talk about what I was dealing with, I had that small group of people, my support system that I could share with. I didn't have to worry about people all across town and everywhere trying to, just trying to create havoc over a situation, because I want to share with somebody today that your battle is not somebody else's gossip ground. They are not to gossip because you're going through every bit of everything that you're going through. When you remain prayerful and in right relationship with the Lord, the God will turn it into a testimony. So you don't need that excess people and baggage out there trying to play and get a heads up on what you're going through. So in remaining prayerful and with that support group, you're in control of what gets out. You're in control of that. You don't have to worry about fighting all of those other battles with family members and friends and sometimes even church members, putting your business out there in the street because you built yourself a place of a safe place to heal and to detox from. Detoxing means getting rid of toxic stuff. It means that you're bringing things into alignment with the Spirit of God, that you can be healed, healthy, and have your peace.
This is good. Dr. Kimberly, I am so happy you're on this program because I'm sure we are able to help someone or some persons that are listening. And, as you were speaking, I'm thinking now about that person, or you see, the abuse takes the person that is given the abuse, they are sometimes not easy to deal with. Because if you have someone that is going through constant physical abuse, if that person withdraw, like you said, you would have your private space and you have that time to yourself. Whereas for the person that may be going through a physical abuse, if they withdraw, they have a problem. If they don't withdraw, they have a problem. So it's not as straightforward for everyone. But how long, when do you think a person needs to get out and seek help? Because you can live with some emotional, you can live with spiritual, verbal, but when it comes to the physical, that is the part that will really destroy you. And for some, it's the verbal. How long should a person remain in such a relationship and not seek help?
Dr. Marie, I have over 25 years of experience, and within that 25 years, I've done domestic violence counseling and treatment program, where here in the U.S., domestic violence is considered you're breaking a law. It is considered that you're breaking a law. And when you go before the judge, you have a 26 weeks program and a fine of $25 or $2,600 that you have to pay, up to $10,000 that you can pay, or you can serve time in jail. And I mean years. Okay. So even if you don't pay the fine, you still can go to jail 6 months, 90 days up to 6 months, even more. And so it's a very serious thing. And I would say to anyone, and I'm not, hear me when I tell you that I am not the person to tell anybody to get out of a marriage quickly. I believe in the word of God says to death do us part. But I also believe that if you're just in a relationship, you're not married to the person, if that person hits you one time, it's time to get out and go.
Yeah.
It's time to get out and go
Yeah.
because it will happen again. Okay. That's for a person that's just in a relationship. You should not be tolerating such things. You don't belong to the person. There is no covenant in that. And so when there's no covenant in that, you're not covered by the covenant blessing because you're not married. Now, a person that is married, I would say to you, things do happen. Relationships are hard. Yes, they are. They are work that you have to work it. And so when you have been faced with that, it all depends on the severity of it. And I would seek help and counseling immediately that it does not happen again. There has to be rules and standards, and there also have to be some form of control when a person know that they're taking things a bit too far. And to put your hands on any person is taking it a bit too far.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a bit too far. And I'm speaking from a professional standpoint that when we tolerate those things, it continues to happen. Just make it clear in the relationship, this is not tolerable to happen at all. So I would seek help as far as counseling. If you're a married person, immediately after the first chance, we need to go talk to somebody because, it just didn't happen because this may have been a first argument, disagreement, or whatsoever. But it needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. There needs to be rules. There needs to be boundaries that needs to be set, and it needs to never happen again.
Very good. Very good. Because, there are some folks that go through that abuse, and for some of them, they prefer to stay. But
Some people do
staying,
prefer to stay, but I would encourage anybody, know
mhm,
your worth,
that's right.
know your value, know who you are and whose you are. Even though you're married to a person, you are not a piece of property.
That's right.
There is no value that you can put on your life. They ought to be honoring you and not abusing you.
Mm,
They should be uplifting you and not tearing you down. You are the vessel that brings the two into one being, one vessel. Your heartbeat should be on the same rhythm.
mhm.
Your communication and your language should be on the same frequency. That when you speak, you're being heard. When your hurt is being felt by the other person.
That's good.
No person in a relationship, if you're in a relationship and you're dealing with emotional trauma on your own, there
Something.
needs to be a conversation. Something has happened because where is the unity? Where is the oneness in this? Where is the oneness?
That's it.
If you're not walking into your home and can tell that something is wrong with your spouse by whatever happened to them, or either if you're on the telephone with them, you don't even have to be in their presence. Their voice should tell you. You
Something.
should be able to pick up and read their spirit if you're in unity, that something is wrong, that I need to ask, how you doing today? How was your day? What happened? Is there something that we need to talk about? And sometimes a person may not want to talk then, but you let them know that you are aware that something is wrong. And at some point, a conversation needs to be had. If you're not on the same frequency, then something is wrong in the marriage.
Yeah. And Doc, there are those spouse, men particularly. And like I say, this can also be either female or male because you have them both going through abuse.
And I want to say on that, females are toxic.
Very much.
There are females that are toxic, and our males suffer from that same abuse
That's right.
and neglect from females because, again, they don't understand the oneness and the unity
That's
that
right.
something is wrong, being able to recognize that something is wrong.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad you pointed out the women can also be toxic. Now, one of the things I look at when you have a controlling male, a man in the relationship, most women, they tend to crumble under such force. We do not recommend persons leaving their spouse, but the longer they stay in under such relationship or rule, the more they will lose themselves. I've seen women who have gone through so much, they have no more say in their relationship. Everything is what he says. She will only go where he says she should go. And by this, she have lost herself, but she's still in this relationship. How can such a person be helped? First of all, I believe they would have to want that help. But because they are so deep into this thing, they don't even know that they need help. But the question is, how can we help them?
Okay, the very, very, very good question. I'm glad that you asked that because we do see a lot of that happening. And the first thing I want to say to a woman, God has graced and gifted you as a helpmate to be able to cultivate that marriage, to whereas it definitely can appear that the man is in control, but ultimately, when you're running and ruling the house, you're in control. The saying makes a happy wife makes a happy home. So you have to understand back again to what you're dealing with, because some men, it's okay to allow them to be in control without controlling you to a place where you have lost yourself, which means that if you're losing yourself, you have misidentified who you are.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is back to what are you representing in the marriage?
Mhm.
The two thing that the ultimate thing about a marriage is to become one, but you still have your own personal identity.
Exactly. Yes.
Male is male, alpha male.
Mhm.
Women is women, and their role is not to be crossed. You got to know when to stay in your own lane. But in your own lane, you must drive it with every effort that you have. You must put 100% in who God has called and anointed you to be. When you meet people, they don't meet you to say, oh, this is a woman that I can control. This is a woman that there is something intrigue about this person that I want to know, that I want to be with, and that I want to have beside my side. And so when you're dealing with a person that is controlling to a point to where it's unhealthy, that's when they have that spirit of control to the point of it wants to make you change who you are. And
Mm.
as a woman, you must realize you can't lose who you are, because then who are you then?
Yeah.
Who are you really serving then? What's happening then? Because you can't function at your God-given ability, because now you're functioning at whatever level, whatever move he tells you to make.
And that's one
There's no
word.
joy, there's no peace, and there is no ability to function. So what you're doing is called bounding. You're now bound.
Yes.
And again, you have to get into the presence of the Lord to be loose and to understand what forces that you're dealing with. Conversation, communication is the most effective aspect that needs to happen every day, all day. And I know you understand why it can't happen all day because we're at work.
Hmm.
But the conversation that you left them with the morning before or the night after is still a conversation that's going on in their mind when they're not with you.
Yeah.
So it needs to be conversations all the time. If not, the enemy is going to plant thoughts in your mind that's going to take bed and root.
Hmm.
And then you're dealing with something other than just a ordinary healthy conversation that you need to have with your spouse.
Dr. Hepburn, I mean, Dr. Oh Lord, I'm calling you Dr. Hepburn, Dr. Green. I am so happy you said that because it means then that woman must take a stand. You
Yes.
cannot allow yourself to be beaten down. You cannot allow, you have to have a voice.
Hmm.
You cannot accept that as normal behavior. If he's throwing tantrum like a little boy and causing problems in the home, you have to take a stand. And taking a stand doesn't mean you're going to, while he's carrying on, you're going to challenge. No. When he's finished, then you take your stand. You let him know this is still what I prefer to do. But you cannot continue to trade and give in to a controlling person because you will lose yourself.
When I want every listener to understand something. When a person is trying to control you till you lose yourself, it's not for you, it's for them. You must also realize that there's nothing that I have done wrong in this aspect. You got to understand there's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's again a selfish spirit, and it's also one that wants to have control. Now let me share this with you. In my marriage, I took on this job, and it was an educator. I was teaching at the time, and um during the point that I was teaching, I've been in an accident and I injured my back. And so I needed to have been healed, but I'm also, listen to me, I needed to be healed because I had a physical injury. I went to several months to rehabilitation to assist me with my injury so I could basically walk. And the job I did not like. It was kind of a what I call a hostile environment. I just didn't like it. It was just too many things. It wasn't a good fit for me. And so I'm trying to maintain this job, and I'm trying to do it while I'm injured. And there was a lot of walking, and I'm now going to therapy prior to going to work, and I did that for a while. And so by this time, you know the conversation and things that were bad within my marriage, I could not share with my husband that I just needed to get off this job. I needed to focus on my healing, and that I just didn't like it. He didn't want to hear that. And I knew the reason why he would not have wanted to hear it is because he felt safe and comfortable that between the hours of 8 and 4, he knew where I was. That wasn't because I'd done anything. I didn't do anything in the marriage to let him feel like he needed to watch over me, but it was because of his own insecurities. It began back to the root of selfishness and also the root of control. And so that was a form of control, that I can control her within these confined hours because I can identify and know where she is. Well, that's a problem that person needs to deal with. That didn't have anything to do with me. And so I had to make a decision. Will I stay here and continue not to be healed and continually to become so physically sick that I may even lose my movement, my ability, my mobility? And as a young person, I decided I wasn't going to do that. No job was worth me not being able to heal. And I felt basically about the same thing by this time about my marriage. And so I want to share with you that I didn't tell my husband immediately, but at that December I resigned, and I didn't go back that January. Well, immediately after that, I started to begin to be healed. I found my joy, my momentum increased, my space where I was. I become more physically healed. And it was enough time that I became physically healed from the injuries that when the marriage even got worse, I realized the same injury came back. And I wondered how, because I didn't do anything to re injure. But it was a stress that started penetrating where the energy, where the injury was. The overloading of the stress from the marriage kept me feeling like I was hurting. And so at that time, I didn't went back to therapy. I just kept doing the exercise, but I dealt with that spirit. And I began to release, and found that in releasing myself and getting away from the toxic relationship, I began to be healed and not to have those problems again. And it wasn't because I needed anything extra. It was because the stress had found a place in me that it was causing muscles to hurt. It was causing things to allow me not to move in peace on a daily basis. So I say to you is when a person wants to hold you in control till you lose your own identity, it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because they want to feel comfortable in their sin state, in their controlling and selfish state. Take care of you. Self-care is your primary care when you are detoxing from a toxic relationship. And I want to just reiterate four things. I said prayer, talking to God, He gives you instructions. The second thing I want to share with you that I said to you on this call today is making sure that you have a good support system, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. Anybody that is not going to add additional stress but can help you. You don't need anybody that's feeding you negative. These people needs to be positive people that can help you in your situation, in every area, every aspect. They got to be strong enough people to help you. And I want to share with you while I'm saying that is it wasn't the people that I thought was there. God placed new people, and I had to appreciate and accept them for who they were and what they came to do. So when you pray, have your support system. The third thing is getting rid of anything that's a reminder of the toxic relationship. I was in a place where I could not afford it, but I had to move furniture out. I just had to get rid. I did new painting. I put up fresh linen and curtains. I changed things because I wanted a place of peace. I had to get my peace back. And so that means I had to get rid of some things that was just a constant reminder of that person just being in my presence. And then after that, I began to make sure that I was doing self-care and taking care of me. And that's very valuable that you remember those four things, because your relationship and your prayer life is going to strengthen who you are. That self-care is going to take you out of that place and you dealing with you identifying, and you're at peace, that you're finding things that you need to pray about and letting God speak back to you and how He's going to bring you out of the way of escape. And that support system is so important.
That is so good, Dr. Green, for our listeners, and especially those that may be going through a difficult time. Self care, self care, and we cannot get enough of it. Once you would have gone through, your body would have gone through stress. Once you have gone through any kind of emotional abuse, physical abuse, your body is stressed.
Yes.
And oftentimes people will say, well, I don't have any stress. Yes, your body feels what you are not saying, what you are not verbally saying, it's
Mm-hmm.
being received. You know, and an example that I had this morning, and it hit me so hard. I was doing something in my kitchen and I put my hand over the steam, the pot, the kettle, and it burnt, and it was hurting so badly. And as long as I put my hand under the cold water, it eased the burn. When I went in the shower and I used the warm water, the burning came back. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly what we go through. You know, you would have gotten a bad relationship, you would have gotten an abuse, you've been in a toxic relationship. And unless you self care, pull yourself away in order to be healed, every time you come back into that environment, that burn will awaken again. So that is why that self care, Doc, is really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you have to, like you said, redecorate your place, fix your place
Mm-hmm.
all over, you know, love yourself and just move away until you are properly healed. Now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe come next week, I will not feel this burn. It means, though, I have to move away from the heat and it will be okay. So, Dr. Kimberly Green, this is so good. This is so good. I love it. And I trust that our listeners out there are getting something from this, especially those that are going through a toxic relationship. And there is hope once you are able to First of all, strengthen yourself. Pull yourself in the right position that you can fight. You cannot fight from a place of weakness. So if you do not allow yourself to be built, taken care of, when the problem escalates, you will not be able to fight back. So we are so happy to have as our guest for this evening, Dr. Green, and I believe she's frozen right now.
I am not frozen.
Oh, that's how it looked just now.
Not on my end. I'm not frozen.
Doc, give us some of your final advice to persons who may be listening. What can you say to those persons to help them to detox and to move on?
When you detox from a relationship, recognize that um, there is life after a toxic relationship. There is marriage, relationships after a toxic marriage. From the first time I was, my first marriage until the second marriage, it was 23 years. And I never imagined that I would have went through what I've gone through in my second marriage to end a divorce. And so therefore I might have dealt with more than I probably should have because I'm trying to save the marriage. It takes two people to save a marriage, not one. If a person really loves you, if there is something wrong, they would definitely be willing to do the work. Toxic relationships, a person that is toxic will run from work in a relationship. A lot of times we as women, we think that we're the only one that has to submit. But in a relationship, there's submission on both parts. Yes, the man will continue to be the head, but in that submission sometimes meaning that I have to be humble enough, not just to speak, but also to hear and know the heart and the pain of a person that is giving out the toxic or how they're affecting that person. And if your heart is right with the Lord and you want your marriage to work, you would do whatever you can to try to heal and to mend what is causing that person to be with you to actually hurt. Um, every tear that is shed is an emotional battle that something is wrong, even tears that are not said. Every voice or every concern that is spoken needs to be addressed, as well as those that are not spoken, because silence does speak. Silence says a lot that something is really wrong. I love a marriage relationship. I really do. I honor it, and that is what I desire to have. But I desire to have it with a person that wants to commit to it 100% on both parts. Marriage and relationships are not 50-50. They're 100-100. You have to give everything.
That is so true. You need to say that again, Dr. Kimberly.
It is not
Yes,
50,
no, the audience.
100.
Yes.
And when one person is down, you have to be strong enough. And you have to believe and want your marriage enough to where you're trying to pick that person up. I did that. I did the picking up. I did the fixing. I did the staying. But when the tables turned and they were strong enough, they walked away. They did not do the same. And so that's what you get when you're in toxic relationships. So always pray for the person, because it's not something that you've done, but something that is stemmed from it. Maybe it could be from a childhood, it could be from a previous relationship or marriage, or it just could be something that they never dealt with that happened in their childhood or in their life that is a reoccurring trauma because they never talked about it, they never addressed it. And so sometimes they don't even understand their own language. Dealing with a narcissistic person, they feel that they're always right. There is no wrong in them, and there's no need for them to ever apologize. I don't think I ever I maybe have gotten one apology out of 6 years.
Wow.
One apology out of 6 years. And so when it was time for me to detox and to move on from the relationship, I would tell you that I was emotionally bankrupt. that at any given time, tears would come. And so I had to find a place of safety and a place to heal. And I'm speaking from a pastoral aspect, that we too are held in a position of high standards of professionalism that we should be able to handle anything. It's a misconception. We deal with hurt and pain just like
You're
everyday.
human first. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. You're human first. We deal with those pains just like everybody else. And so when it was my turn, I dealt with being ashamed. I dealt with not wanting to just deal with the table, the plate that was before me. And I would say from a very wise person who had been in several relationships, failed relationship, but did found the right person. It was the right relationship. He told me, he said, the plate that has been set at the table for you, he said, eat it, digest it, and let it go.
Yes.
That you can save yourself. And I'm going to tell anybody, we'd love to save people. We love to think that we can save marriages, but we cannot save anybody. It's God that does the saving. Amen.
That's
And
right.
so what we have to do is save ourselves. And that's what a self-care, take care of you.
That's
Uh,
right.
don't lose you.
That's right.
Don't lose who you are and what God has called you to be. Because at the end of the day, it's about you and him anyway. It's not about you and the person that didn't do right,
Mhm.
that won't do right, or just choose not to do right.
Yes.
And it is painful, it is hurtful to have somebody to say that they choose you, but then they don't choose you because they don't care about how you're feeling and what as a result of the toxic relationship. So it can
Wow.
lose, it can leave some bruising and
Yes.
it can
Yes.
leave some scars, but you definitely can heal from it and you can move on.
That's right. Dr. Kimberly, this has been so good, and we are really not out of content. As you can see, we can talk on, but we are certainly out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Green. It has been a pleasure having you with us. And we probably will take this up again and give a part two at a later time. But we thank you for being here with us. And we thank you, our listening audience. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And please let us know if you have any questions or any comments. Please let us know and we will address them on our next program. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. McDonald. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners.
Thank you.